everybody. This is Paige from the Heartland Society of Women Writers. I am community outreach and events programmer, and I am going to go live with Aisha Rose here in just a few minutes. Aisha Rose is an author who has written 2 journals that we are giving away this week. At the end of the live, we are going to announce the winners. While we wait for the live to get started, because I am a few minutes early, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming events and some of the things we have planned for 2021. So we have started having every Monday morning or Sunday morning silent write-ins. Those are really great opportunities for people to come in and just work on what they want to work on and kind of have an accountability group and some focused, quiet writing time. And then there's time at the end of the session to share. It is a quick session, and I recommend that you check it out because it should be pretty awesome. Caitlin, our publishing admin, also runs that. She runs a lot of our write-ins. Caitlin is also hosting a workshop, and it's all about submitting to Duotrope and other good short story submission websites, and it's about getting your writing out there and starting to submit that stuff. And that will be held this month as well. We have a few other events that we're going to have next month as well. We're going to feature another author. We're going to publish some more Writing Women. So if you're curious about any of our events, if you click the link in our bio, it will take you to how to get to our events. So I welcome you, and I ask that you check it out. And we hope to see you at more of our stuff this year. We're going to offer a lot more workshops. The workshops are only $5, so that's pretty exciting. And we're also going to offer lots of more writing opportunities. If you're not already a member of our Facebook group, if you click on the link in our bio, you can click on the one that says join the society, and it takes you to our Facebook group, which is a really supportive, loving environment. So I highly recommend that you check that out as well. We are going to interview Aisha Rose here in just a little bit. And as I mentioned, she has written 2 journals. These journals are interactive, so they're guided journaling. So if you're a fan of journaling, which I personally started writing journaling whenever I was younger, I had like a little diary with a lock and key on it. I love journaling, and she has 2 fantastic ones that are coming out. One is already out, and another one is about to be released very soon. The Healing Journal is already out, and the Manifestation Journal is coming out soon. So Aisha's here. I'm going to go ahead and see if she will join us. And started. Oh, she says she needs just a second. And that's okay. Yeah, I have to, my computer, or not my computer, my internet connection lags a little bit behind. So it might take just a moment for her to join us. But we're excited to have her here. And then at the end of today's live, we're going to announce our winners. We've ordered both of Aisha's journals, and we're going to give them both away. So it's really exciting. I also wanted to talk briefly about our upcoming events for next month as well. We'll have a February write-in. We'll have another workshop available that Caitlin is going to run. And we will have more information about a contest. We have our very first short story contest going on right now. If you can enter any short story, any genre. You can check out our website, and we will be able to judge those stories, and we will announce our winners in April, which is really exciting. So highly recommend checking out our short story contest. If you are interested. The winner does get $100. It is being judged by 2 of our previously featured authors, Lene Lane and Savannah Goins. So definitely consider If you have anything that you want to submit, consider submitting for our contest. Our window closes at the end of February for submission to the contest, so you still have some time. You have about a month and a half to get your submission ready. All right. I think Aisha is ready to join us, and we will get started as soon as Instagram allows. All right. Hi, Aisha.
Hi.
Welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. So excited to join you.
Yeah, this is great. So, I was talking a little bit about and kind of introducing you earlier,
Yes,
but I'm going to start out just having you tell us about you and your writing journey and give us any information just to kind of introduce yourself.
sure. Well, my name is Aisha Rose. I am a writer, a creative, also the founder and CEO of The Strength of She, which is a women's empowerment community where we empower women of color, specifically Black women, to be well, be loved, and be you. Where we also host a podcast called Shenanigans. So I've been creating content for years, honestly, but I started The Strength of She almost 6 years ago, and started writing under Aisha Rose about 2 years ago.
Awesome. That's really great. I'm excited to talk about the strength of she some more a little bit later, but that's really cool. It sounds like you've got a lot going on.
Always. And so hence why I was a little tardy. My
It's okay.
son, who I shared is with me tonight, unplanned, wanted more dinner right when
Oh,
right when it was set to join. So he may be popping on and off with me here too.
that's okay. I am a mom as well. I think most of us understand what that's like. It's kind of hard
Yeah,
sometimes to balance momming and taking over the world, so I get that.
for sure. Hey,
So, oh, go ahead.
I was saying, hey, Aubrey. I was
Oh,
looking at.
yeah, we have some people joining us, and we appreciate you. If anybody has any questions for Aisha, feel free to drop them in, and we will pop in and answer those at the end for sure. So I have a list of some things that were submitted by our followers, and just some things that I thought we could talk about. So
Sure.
I'm going to get into the first thing. So, what made you decide to write your own journals? That's kind of what you're known for in the writing world right now,
Yep.
like your product that you put out for writers or for anyone really. You wrote the healing journal, then you have the manifestation journal.
Yep.
So, what made you decide to write those?
Yeah, so as far as the healing journal, that's what really kicked it off for me. I started my personal healing journey in 2019, and what sparked it was me going through divorce, kind of
Mhm.
expectedly, but then also unexpectedly at the same time, and just really asking myself the question of like, who am I? How did I get here? Where am I going? Just really kind of going through this process of rediscovering myself, but also healing from the whole process of that the divorce is, kind of raised, and just the ending of a part of your life that you didn't expect to end. And so just going through that, and I shared it very publicly with my followers through my Instagram story. And so I would get questions all the time about, how are you going through this so gracefully, was a word that I heard a lot. Or, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What's helping you through this journey? And I really wasn't reading anything. I was journaling a lot. I was in therapy weekly, and just creating exercises and methods for myself, just kind of
Mhm.
based on practices and learnings that I had accumulated over the years. And so as I kept having more and more women reach out to me, I thought, how about I put this into kind of one place? Because I found myself sending them a lot of articles and resources, and try this and try that. And it was just kind of like a cluster of things that I was just trying myself. And so journal for me was the most appropriate thing to put together, because journaling is so near to my heart, and
Mhm.
it's something that I practice very regularly. And for me, it was easy to translate what I was doing into journaling.
That's really nice that you did that because I can't imagine like going through such a tough time in your life, and then also having other people ask you like, how are you doing this? What can I do? And I think it's really big of you and awesome of you to not only go through that on your own and heal yourself through that process, but share that with others. I think that's awesome that you did that.
Thank you.
Um, so speaking of helping other people, how have your journals helped others on their healing journey? I'm sure you get a lot of feedback. So what are some specific things that they enjoy about your journals?
Yeah. I have people who maybe they haven't went through ending
Mhm.
so much like I have, but they've been transitioning a lot. I had women that reached out to me that maybe have gotten married or had a baby and didn't realize how those life transitions. Yeah, he wants more food.
Oh,
How those
wow.
He's a eater, so this will be fun. How those life transitions really, how they felt like they lost themselves through those life transitions, and how the journal and the way that I put it together and wrote it really felt like it was a friend helping them through it. Because I really went back and forth about how much should I write in here. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, you have journals and it's just the prompts, or journals and it's just blank pages, and it's like, come up with whatever you want to write. But I really felt like there were specific questions that people needed to ask themselves to guide them through that journey. So giving them those prompts was important, but also giving them guidance and then giving them examples based on my life and my journey, just to give them some perspective, was also important. And one review that I got from someone was so impactful. She said, the beginning of your chapters are like a peek into your life, and like you're showing, oh buddy, like you're showing, okay, you're all done. Okay, one intermission. Okay. And like you're peeking, peeking, like we're peeking into your life, and then you're closing the curtain and letting us have our own time as we go into our prompts. And I was like, wow, like I never thought about, the layout in that way, but the way that she took away from that and was able to use the journal in that way was just really impactful.
That's really cool. And that's I think a lot of what a friend or, even a therapist or someone who's guiding you would do, like relate to you on a personal
Yeah.
level, but then let you do your own work. And I think that's really
Yeah.
special that you can capture that in the written word because I'm with you on the journaling. Like sometimes I look at a blank journal and I'm like, where do I even start? Especially when I'm
Hmm.
in an emotionally difficult place. I'm like, where do I even start to express how I'm feeling? So it's awesome that you
Yeah.
have some guidance for that. That's really good.
Thanks.
Um,
Yeah.
you've done other writing. Your website's full of some great articles I was reading, this week.
Thank you.
What's your favorite piece of writing that you've ever done?
Oh, that's such a hard
It
question.
is.
I don't know that I have a favorite. I would say that one that I shared this week, especially about my journey with fibroids, and I have one that's
Mhm.
on my website that's more specific to my infertility journey. Those are very intimate pieces for me, and but they were also very important for me to share, because women, I think over the years we've started to hear those stories come about more, but we still don't talk about that enough. We don't
Mhm.
share our experiences enough, and women suffer in silence so much related to women's health issues in those areas. And just being able to shine a little light,
Mhm.
on those topics, but also offer for someone that, hey, you're not alone,
Mhm.
someone else is going through this too, and also offer how I made it through that, and what are some things that I was able to do to have a child, or, relieve some pain that I was having, just to give some people some perspective. So for me, those would be really important pieces, just because they were so intimate. And
Mhm.
and I come from a family too that doesn't talk about a lot of things, which is actually what triggered me being a writer. We just don't talk about a lot of intimate things a lot, and so for them it was like, you're sharing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And I'm like, because it's my business and I don't mind, and so as long as I'm able to help someone and make someone not feel like they're alone, that's a lot of where my writing inspiration comes from.
Yeah, that takes a lot of bravery and courage too to share those personal things. I mean, as someone who's gone through, feminine health issues as well, it is so, the first place I go is the internet, honestly. So cute. But yeah, the first place I go is Google. And when I can read firsthand accounts of things that women have gone through, it really does help me a lot. So I'm
Yeah,
sure that lots of people appreciate you being vulnerable with those things.
thanks.
Um, so speaking of your inspiration, you talked about helping other people, inspiring you to write, but who else? Like, are there any specific people in your life or writers that you know or inspirational women that you follow that really inspires your writing and inspires your work in general?
Not exactly. I would say that the women who respond to my work inspire me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it makes me feel as if I didn't write it for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't share this for nothing and it reached somebody. Like one of the pieces, you all sharing some of my older pieces this week helped someone else find one of my stories about anniversaries after divorce. And she wrote, it triggered her to send me a note today and say, hey, I divorced years ago. Like, I'm way past this, but I just wanted to send you a note and say, wow, like, I wish I would have had an article like this when I was going through that point in time and that journey. And so just hearing that type of reflection and those types of notes, those are the people that inspire me the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Writers want to be read, and if you can help other people with your experience, then that's even better. That's great. I love that she found you and relates that. I was reading that article this week too, and I was like, you were very open about it, and I love that you were describing what you were going through and you were just honest. And I think people appreciate that for sure because there's so much when we get advice, there's so many people that just like give it very generally or and they don't tell you that they've lived through it or that maybe they haven't lived through it. And it's really important to hear
Yes.
that.
Thank you. Can you please sit down and watch your movie? I can't play sports right now. Can you keep it? Okay.
How old is your son?
He's 2.
Oh, that's a fun time.
So we've had a fun first full day in the house. He'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
he'll be 3 next month.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have an 11-year-old and I remember those days.
Yeah. Can you go get your trucks? Oh, buddy. Okay.
Well, you seem to have a very busy schedule. I was watching you live. You're full-time single mother. You work a full-time, 9 to 5 job. You run your own organization. You write. So how do you manage this and still find time for yourself?
I don't. Um, so that's honestly, that's still a balance I am trying to find. And I know like balance is one of those things that I think some people talk about it like you have to have balance. Like it's just gonna look the same every day, and it doesn't. So I try to keep all my tools in my toolkit. We talk about that a lot over at the Strength of She about our toolkits and our toolboxes, and we have all these different kinds as whether it's for wellness or self-care or time management and balance. And so I try to keep all of my tools at my disposal when I can. So whether that's meal prepping and being prepared so that if I'm running all day I didn't miss a meal, I got that covered. Keeping all the things that I like to have that keep me calm and keep my anxiety low. I know I shared like candles and incense, which I love, on our stories, and even teas and essential oils, things like that. And so those things keep me balanced. I have about 3 different planners, which sounds like it could be a lot. But but it keeps me organized with work, especially working remotely due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have one for Aisha Rose and have one for the Strength of She. And so keeping them separate helps me make sure I understand all of what each of them needs to hit for every week. But keeps them all organized too.
That's a good plan. I also have a planner that I keep full, but it's a lot because I also work and have child and or help run an organization. So I get that. Some days you
Yeah.
just can't have time for
Some,
yourself.
yeah, and you know what? And some days you can't have time for the other.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of days where I say, hey, you guys, I need a break. I have to take a half day today. Or, I tell them, this is where I need to lean into you guys right now because, I'm too heavy on the time front with this. And so you just flex it and give yourself grace and, and just try to work it all out.
Mm-hmm. You're doing the best you can, right? That's all that moms can do.
All you can do.
Um, where do you do your writing? So you talked a little bit about your space.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about your space, how you make it conducive to creation, especially if you're like busy and you just only have a little bit of time for yourself. So how do you prepare that?
Yeah. Um, It depends on what I'm writing about, to be honest. Sometimes I need very energetic spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will go to a coffee bar
Mm-hmm.
or a hookah bar, if you're into that. I go to those places and I go at night or like closest to the evening or really early in the morning where there'll be a lot of people and a lot of like working energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows me to pump things out really quickly. So I can write, 4 pieces in 2 hours, if
Wow.
I'm really determined. And because I'm very much so a free writer and I just
Mm-hmm.
write what's on my heart and what's on my mind. And I worry about editing and grammar and all those specifics later. Hey, thank
Hey.
you. And so I can be a very quick writer. So I usually don't need a whole lot of time. But if I'm writing something that may be a little bit more intimate and it's not just like, hey, here's some tips on da 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 da,
Mm-hmm.
or here's this recipe about blah 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 blah. Like I may even write that in bed. I light a
Mm-hmm.
candle. I get really relaxed, and I can write that literally from my bed. So it just really depends. I do not write when my child is here for this reason. And so that can sometimes definitely slow down how quickly I get out pieces, and how consistent. I know. See, I know. I'm going to turn that off so that doesn't distract you. Are you all done with this show? I may need to turn on it.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So, yeah, let's turn on something else so you can cooperate. Okay. We're flowing with this. So, I do not write when he is here for this. Okay. Yes. So I do not write when he is here. Hence. And so that can definitely change. Oh, now he wants to say hello. Just say hello because you're really
Hi.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay, they don't want to see the television. He's really into right now showing people the television.
That's
so.
cute.
So bear with me. We're almost there.
It's okay. You're fine.
So as far as so that can slow down my consistency, and it can really kind of mess me up because I'll have this plan in my head about all the things I want to write about for the month. You know what I'm saying? And it can really throw my plan off. And so I just have to I'm trying to set up a schedule with myself of the days that I write. But sometimes if my heart isn't in it, I just can't do it.
Right. I'm the same way. You don't want
Yeah.
to force it.
Exactly.
We have a question from the audience that kind of
Awesome.
that is definitely on topic here. I think it's your friend Aubrey asked, let me see, when you first decided to share your writing, were you nervous on how it would be perceived? And if so, did you overcome that fear? It's a great question. Thank you.
That's a great question. I would say, I'm going to turn this way so I can multitask. I would say that I To be honest, I'm not usually very concerned about what other people think. I'm not one of those. That's just not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I am usually concerned about what my mother thinks. I am
Mm.
one of those people because my mother can be very opinionated. And she can take personal the things that I write. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and can take things a little bit out of context. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I have to talk her through, like, hey, mom, like when I was going, went through the divorce, I think that she assumed like, oh, well, she's somewhere crying and upset, based on all of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I was writing about. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, mommy, I'm sharing this because I know that this is what other people need to hear that are going through it. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
through this and I'm okay. And so just helping her understand that. So it's more about the people that are closer to me. I'm usually more concerned about how they interpret my writing. And I think about um, even my ex-husband. I had a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with him about, well, how I am, I have a show, I write. What are something, let's talk about boundaries and let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about the boundaries of what I share. And let's be clear about what my story is versus your story with this. And so making sure that we were clear there and that he was prepared for people to come to him about what I may share.
Right. Yeah. That's really
Um,
healthy. That's really awesome
yeah,
that you had that conversation with him and you kind of cleared it before you shared it. That's really cool.
yeah, yeah. Because other people that I don't know, I,
Mm-hmm.
they can have their opinions. They're not in my day to day life, but the people that are in my day to day life, that's who I care about the most. And sometimes it's just more about having that upfront conversation with them and making sure that they understand.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really
Mhm.
cool. And I was reading your blog about co-parenting, and I thought it was really awesome and commendable of you to be open about that and how important it is for you and your ex to. I liked the what you said about how you shouldn't argue unless it's about respect or about your son. I
Yep,
loved that. I thought that was a really awesome way to put it because anything else was in the past and
yep,
didn't have anything to do with your relationship anymore. It was over, it was done, you
yep.
know. And so I thought that was great. And I found that on your website and I wanted to ask you what other kinds
Yeah.
of things should we be checking out on your website because you have a really cool website. You got an awesome shop, you've got like recipes on there. Like tell us all that we can find on there.
Look, check out all the things, okay? And more things will be coming. Like you just mentioned, some recipes are on there. I have even more to share. People that have been following me for a while, I love to share what I'm cooking and my favorite products and some of my favorite foods, especially that have really aided in my health journey and my wellness journey. It's such an important topic, for me to talk about. And so, especially if you have like conditions that your diet can be very impactful to, I would definitely check that out. Let me see. My shop is on there, so I do have on my healing sweatshirt.
Ooh,
I've
cute.
worn it 1,000 times, so it's a little dingy. But I have all of my sweatshirts and my tees are on there. I'll have new merch that is coming there, and I'm also I know that you will we'll talk more about this, but something that I'm working on that's coming is I have people that reach out to me all the time about how do I write a book,
Mm,
and I'm usually very fine with sharing that information, but it can get very complicated and
hmm
can almost turn into like a consult. And so, I try to be careful with how often I respond to messages like that. So I'm actually putting that together in a workshop kind of online course.
That's
And
awesome.
that'll be on my website as well. How can you create and self-publish your own book?
I love that. We have so many women that ask us that question, and you are so right that it is a very specific, very complicated process.
Yeah.
And you are totally right. You can't really, it's hard to give that information away for free because it can be so time consuming.
Yes, yes. And it's like I'm always willing to share and give I will always share like, hey, check this site out, or go read this article. It'll give you a lot of tips. But then when we get into like step by step instructions, then like that's a different story. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been collecting all of those types of questions that people usually ask me and just putting it into a course that just helps people walk them through it, because I know how it is and how hard it is just to start. And then what do you do once your manuscript is finished? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you even create a book cover? And then how do you get it uploaded? And all of those things. And all of those things I do myself. And so
Wow.
I'll be able to share that with people.
That's really exciting. Please let us know. We'll share that with our people because,
Okay.
like I said, we get a lot of questions about that because self-publishing is such a, it sometimes it seems like it's a path of least resistance, but there are still so many things.
Yes.
Our guest author last month, Lene Lane, she's self-published romance author, and she was talking a little bit about how there's just so much you have to think about: the marketing, the formatting, the beta reading, and all that. So there's things that like a traditional publisher would do for you, you
Yep.
have to do on your own, which is
And
nice because you have control over it, but still a lot.
it's a lot. It's
Hmm.
a lot of steps.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit more about your passion projects that you like to be into. So maybe the Strength of She or any other projects that you're involved in, your podcast, anything else other than your writing that you want us to know about.
Yeah, for sure. So with the Strength of She, like I said, I started that almost 6 years ago, which is crazy to believe. And we started off with a team of like 7 bloggers, which is
Wow.
also crazy to believe. I don't know what 25-year-old Aisha, she was very, very, and so started that off and just really wanted to offer a space where, and it's the mission is still the same now, where there's so many platforms and communities that are sharing with women how to be a boss and how to be this
Mhm.
and how to run this, and there's definitely a space for that and a need for that, but who brings women together and shares with them about how to be well, like literally, and that shares kind of those stories that we talked about that are just relatable. We talked about everything from quarter life crisis when we were all turning 25, and you know dating while black, and dating during a pandemic now,
Mhm.
um, or being alone but not lonely. So going through singleness during your 20s, and just so many things. Who are the women that you can share that with, especially if you don't have a community, especially if you don't have a group of besties that you can be vulnerable with. Or if you're just not a vulnerable person, you don't have those kind
Mhm.
of conversations. And so really having that is the space that we wanted to create. And it started off as a blog and evolved into live events. We held a conference at least one
Wow.
year, and evolved more into our podcast. And we did publish a book called Dear Sister Friend as well, and that was the first book I published.
Oh, wow.
So just all the arms of that, the mission, like I said, remained the same, but it was this whole sense of bringing women together for that sole purpose of growing and being better and being well, and understanding that you're not in life alone. You're not
Mhm.
doing this alone, and someone else is probably going through the same thing.
I love that. I think it's so important that people know, especially people who maybe don't feel like they have other people that they can open up to. They have a community. That's awesome that you're providing that. Strength of She.
Yes.
Give it a follow. And the
Yes.
podcast, what's the podcast called again?
Shenanigans. And so you can
Shenanigans.
shenanigans_pod.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I'll give that a listen. Everybody else should check that out for sure. Um, so what is one, we're going to get a little bit deeper here.
Okay.
Um, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a woman who is hurting right now, and maybe more specifically to moms that are going through it? Because right now I know that you're not like necessarily a therapist, but you've been through a lot and you're very vulnerable about your journey. And I know that a lot of people are hurting right now, women especially, during the pandemic and other things. So
Yeah.
what's a piece of advice you would give to a hurting woman or a mother that feels like she's going through something?
Mm-hmm. I the advice that popped in my head first, I'll lead with that. That's my rule. So I'll say don't mask it. We do that so well. I'm a pro at that. Put on my smiling face and just keep it chugging and keep it rolling and go through all the things, especially if you're a busy mom or a busy
Mm-hmm.
woman. And so it can get very easy to just go through the motions and not pay attention to those feelings, and pay attention to what's really going on the inside. And so journaling may or may not be your thing. That's one way that a lot of people can really tap in to those feelings. Maybe it's meditation. And meditation looks different for everybody. I think that a lot of people think meditation, and you're like, oh, I got to sit on the ground. I got to hold my hands like this and I got to do this. And it's not that either. It can just be going outside and walking, or going to the gym and you're on a treadmill and you're listening just to some quiet sounds, and just anything that can help you tap in to what you're truly feeling and allow you some alone time with your thoughts, to acknowledge your thoughts and acknowledge your feelings, and don't let that mask kind of carry you on for too long, because eventually it's gonna blow up. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can only keep things down for so long, before they escalate, before they grow, and be something that you really can't control. So definitely that's what I would offer. Don't ignore those feelings. Find a way to acknowledge them, and get to the root of why they are.
That's good advice. Like you said, too often we're tempted just to go on and hope it goes away, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Okay, so women writers and women in general, how can women be a better support system for one another? Because I think it's changing now, especially with social media a little bit, but
Mm,
there's always kind of the expectation of maybe competition or maybe hesitancy in women friendships,
yep.
because there's always like one person who might be trying to control or change the dynamic. So how can we be more supportive of each other? Because, you spent lots of time working on this with your organization, and just share some of that insight with us.
Well, I'll say two things, and one you just took from me, Paige.
Okay.
But one I'll say is to literally stop competing. I mean, like it starts there. I think that we see other women that are doing the same thing as us as competition, and there really is space,
Mhm.
because I'm not going to be for everybody. Like, there is another form of Aisha Rose that lives somewhere else by a different name, and she is for somebody else, and that's great too. And so making sure that we understand that there is room and there is space, and as long as we are all going towards the same mission and reaching the same types of people, that's what's the most important. So number one, just stop competing, because that is why we compete, because we think that there's not enough space, or that a
Mhm.
niche is overcrowded or too full, or and it's not. There's no such thing. Or there would be like no more hair bloggers ever starting. Like, how many bloggers can really start, but
Mhm.
people like who they like, and so that's what matters. So that's number one. Number two is something that we talked about on Shenanigans recently. It may have been in my segment. I think I talked about it on Shenanigans recently, and it was ask your friends how they want to be supported. I don't
Mm.
ask that enough,
Mhm.
or ask it at all. We all have different support needs. We all have different support styles. We all have different things that are going on in life. So just because a friend may not have a business, or they may not be a writer or a mom even, they have other things that are going on. And so how do they want to be supported, and how can you show up for them, and making sure that you understand that as a friend or somebody in their support network, and be very intentional about showing up for that person in that way.
That's a really good advice, especially that last thing. I don't know if I've ever asked that specifically, you know? Like, I guess I just assume that when I know someone, I know what they need,
Mm,
but you don't
you
unless
don't?
you ask. You
Yeah.
really don't. And that's where the miscommunication comes in, for sure.
I look at my friendships. I talked about this recently too, like marriages, and it is
Hmm.
about knowing your friend, like knowing your spouse, and having some of those intimate conversations to know them better. And so that was one of the questions that came up.
That's really great. That's something that I'm definitely going to take with me today. So I appreciate you sharing that for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so speaking of like the future, you spent a lot of time in the writing and media industry. Um, and what are some things that you would like to see changed that would better help with messages of healing and hope? Because it's so easy to gloss over mental health
Hmm.
um, and wellness in general, especially for women, especially I'm sure for Black women or women of color.
Yep.
So what are some things that you would like to see change to help positively impact that?
I think that there's like a ratio that has to be created. I mean, especially within mainstream media.
Hmm.
And I'm not being biased because I'm a journalist by trade. You know, I have a journalism degree. I understand news and all of that. And so a lot of people do not watch the news because of the news that is being delivered. And so
Hmm.
we understand like feel good stories. But I think that during times like this, ensuring that we're really tapping into some of those topics that people really need, especially around wellness and healing, and just staying mentally okay during times like this. Just making sure that news folks are being very intentional about carving out the space to share those resources. And then on the flip side, it is on the influencers, the bloggers, the writers, all of the above, the content creators that create content that is specific to that, to pitch ourselves more
Hmm.
and put ourselves in the forefront more, to say, hey, you aren't talking about this and you need to be, and this is why, to really get that out there. So it works both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there definitely is, like you said, a hesitancy to watch mainstream media because of what they see. And honestly, with social media now, there's so much more opportunity to elevate voices that maybe those opportunities are not being used to the fullest degree, you know. Absolutely. You talked a little bit about this, but is there anything that you want us to look for in the future? You talked a little bit about your writing, your how to write a book, how to publish a book course that you're going to offer. Anything else that we should look for?
I have so many campaigns coming up, that I'm so excited about, and a lot of them are related to the topics we talked about today. So around wellness, around mental health, around internal reflection and confidence. So just really rich content that I think will be very timely for people, especially coming out of 2020.
Hmm.
So super excited about getting a lot of those things started literally this month. I'm going into development mode for a lot of those at the end of this month. So you can be on the lookout for that. Also, more journals coming from me, some that will be guided and some that will be a little bit more open ended, and free flowing. And so that are just offering kind of space and and some tools that will be complementary to those journals as well. So a lot of different things that I plan to bring into that space that just complement each other, and hopefully help people practice wellness and intention, and tap into those journeys of manifesting, reflecting, and healing even more.
That's awesome. We'll definitely be on the lookout for that. We will share the things that you post and so that our followers can find it and follow your journey. And I'm excited to hear more about the journals as well. That's going to be really awesome.
Thank you.
All right, I have two random questions from
Okay.
some listeners. These are not necessarily things having to do with writing or wellness, but
Yeah.
one question is, do you believe in ghosts or have any scary stories?
Yeah. Uh, all the time. I keep protective crystals around my house
I do
for
too.
that reason, because I have definitely had interactions since I was a kid um, with ghosts and spirits and such. And so sometimes I know that they're nice and they're just my guides coming around and letting me know that they're around. Sometimes not so much. And so I try to sage my space and all of that. And actually, this isn't, I don't have the full story, but this is kind of a story. One of my protective crystals disappeared. Um,
Oh.
yes, that I leave out here in my living room area, literally on this counter to protect just this whole space, because I kept feeling energy in here, and my son's room is out here, and just kept me at peace when I would go to bed, knowing
Hmm.
that the space was protected. Disappeared. Don't know where it is. Haven't been able to find it. So just a story
Mm.
there.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm going to go get more, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to line them up.
I don't blame you. I don't know if you follow us for any length of time, which I think we just made acquaintance in the
Yeah.
past month, but my husband and I are really into that. My husband actually asked that question. He loves hearing stories.
Totally into that. I wanted to go on
Yeah.
those tours
Yes.
during the fall, and they were sold out for all the weekends I could go. And so I'm totally into that.
Yeah, that's awesome. We are too. We'll have to talk more about that sometime. That's
Yes.
it's really it's really interesting. Um, Another question is if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I've been back. Um, hmm. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say rewind time, but almost like a redo
Hmm.
of a few
Yeah.
moments, just a few. You know,
Yeah.
I definitely believe in the lessons of life and all of that, and so for sure, don't want to take back. I don't believe in mistakes necessarily, because there's lessons in everything, but just, a few redo moments, and even in a positive way, just because the moment was so wonderful.
Hmm.
Just being able to experience it again, like moments like having my son, it went by so fast. I'm like, oh, just to see that again happen
Hmm.
again would be nice. And so just having the ability to do that probably.
I think about that too. Like it'd be cool to rewind in your mind. I don't know if you've ever seen like Black Mirror. There's that episode
Yeah.
where they've got like the contact
The
lenses that
theme song.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would want to rewatch like the birth of my son was
Yes.
I'm with you there and like some other moments in my life. I get that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Looks like we have another one. Favorite dessert?
Oh, that's a good one, because I love desserts.
Hmm.
Um, I really like cobblers,
Mm.
but more so like apple cobblers.
Oh yes.
Cobbler, but I don't like peaches. So the peaches have to be very specific. Like they have to be small and dainty and more crusty than peachy. But I but I like cobblers with ice cream.
Oh yes. I love apple cobbler with ice cream for sure. Last question. What's a good name for a cat? Are you a
None,
cat person?
none of my cats had good names. One of my friends, he has twin cats, and they're named Bob and Marley. I thought that
Nice.
was creative.
That is cute. I love that. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have. And unless there's anything that you want to close out with, we can go ahead and announce our winners for the journals. We have two winners. One winner will receive the Healing Journal, and one will receive the Manifestation Journal. And so we can go ahead and announce those.
Awesome. So the first winner is Kristen Shelby Slays. So
Yay.
congratulations, Kristen. I know her, so that's awesome. She's always winning something. And then Shell Roche 285. You are our second winner.
Yay! Congratulations to you too. We will message you on Instagram and get your address and your shipping information, and we will send this off to you soon. And I will let you know and be in touch with those things. And I just
Yes.
want to say thank you so much for giving your time. I know you're busy. I know you have your son with you.
Yes.
I want to
Good
thank
Nancy.
him for giving up his mom for a little bit today.
Yes.
And we're going to watch out for all your exciting things.
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. This has been such a fun week.
Yes.
And just being able to share everything, the way that you all put it together was amazing. This is
Thank
such an
you.
amazing team. So learned a lot from you all this week with the way that you all put this week together. So amazing. This has been so much fun, and I just appreciate you for having me and creating space for me,
Yeah,
and looking forward
absolutely.
to staying in touch as we keep along.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's do. Thank you so much. You have a good night. Say bye to your son for us.
Thank you. I will. Bye, guys.
Bye.